Raise the whole question again of this ongoing debate about trans athletes in women's sport, because obviously it highlights the physical disparity between men and women. Martina Navratilova, a former number one, obviously like yourself, says it's wrong for the Women's Tennis Association to allow trans women to compete in its events. Do you agree with her?
Well, that's a tricky question. I have nothing to do against them, but I feel like they still got huge advantage over the woman, and I think it's just not fair to a woman to basically face like the biologically man, and then it's it's not fair. Like the woman been working the whole life to reach her limit, and then she has to face like a man, like which biologically much stronger. So for me, I don't agree with this kind of.
Listen to this. Aryna Sabalenka just dropped a bombshell on Piers Morgan's show, and the sports world is completely losing it. The world number one didn't hold anything back, and now the WTA is scrambling to respond. Advocacy groups are up in arms, and everyone is picking sides fast. Girl, this isn't just about tennis anymore. This is shaking up every sport on the planet and raising questions about who even gets to compete where. Before we dive into exactly what Sabalenka said and why it's triggering this absolute meltdown, I need to hear from you. Should athletes even weigh in on policies in sports they don't run? Drop your thoughts below, because trust me, this is about to get wild.
Competing against women in elite sport, the biologically male body is bigger, stronger and faster than the female physiology, and we've only recently been cowed into pretending otherwise because of a noisy minority of radical wokies. But long before this debate became toxic and, in my view, frankly insane, there was a far more jovial contest over the sporting supremacy of the genders. It was called the Battle of the Sexes, with female tennis superstars taking on men in big televised exhibitions.
All right, let's get one thing crystal clear from the jump. The headlines claiming Aryna Sabalenka wants trans players banned from every sport? Yeah, that's doing a lot of heavy lifting. What really went down is that Sabalenka sat down with Piers Morgan. Yep, that Piers Morgan, who's basically allergic to subtlety and loves poking every bear he sees. He asked her straight up about transgender athletes competing in women's tennis. Her answer is complicated. She said, "I have nothing against them, but I feel like they still hold a massive advantage over women." And she added, "It's not really fair on women to compete against basically biological men."
How many men she could beat. And I think she said she wouldn't beat anyone in the top 800. I think she said something like that. When you look at the men's game and you look at, say, the top 1,000 players, how many do you think you could beat? I mean, at what level would you fancy your chances against a man in say, a three-set competition?
Well, to be honest, I think if we play like full court, full rules, yeah, it will be really tough for me to compete against guys. I mean, physically they're much stronger. Speed, power of the balls, everything is much stronger. So it's tough to compete. But in these conditions, I feel like we're having right now here, like 9% smaller court. I feel like, okay, maybe at least I have bit like higher chance to compete and to see like if I can.
Now here's the thing. She specifically said women's tennis. That's the sport she was talking about. But of course, the internet being the internet, people ran wild with it. Everyone's acting like Sabalenka wants transgender athletes banned from basketball, swimming, track and field, volleyball, and basically every other sport out there. Why? Because nuance is basically extinct, and we live in a world where every statement gets blown up to its absolute extreme.
Raise the whole question again of this ongoing debate about trans athletes in women's sport, because obviously it highlights the physical disparity between men and women. Martina Navratilova, a former number one, obviously like yourself, says it's wrong for the Women's Tennis Association to allow trans women to compete in its events. Do you agree with her?
Well, that's a tricky question. I have nothing to do against them, but I feel like they still got huge advantage over the woman, and I think it's just not fair to a woman to basically face like the biologically man, and then it's it's not fair. Like the woman been working the whole life to reach her limit, and then she has to face like a man, like which biologically much stronger. So for me, I don't agree with this kind of stuff in sport.
The Belarusian world number one, a four-time Grand Slam champ, and at the absolute peak of her career, went on to say it's just not fair. She explained that women spend their whole lives grinding to reach their limits, only to go up against someone who is biologically much stronger. So for her, she doesn't agree with this kind of stuff in sport. And that line, this kind of stuff in sport, is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. Some people are taking it to mean Sabalenka is talking about all sports. Others insist she's only talking about tennis. Either way, the WTA is in full-blown crisis mode right now. Its biggest star just stepping straight into one of the most controversial debates in modern sports.
If you're honest,
like a regular
Aryna,
match against the guy.
There's obviously a physical advantage for men, but if you're honest, do you think you would beat
Yes.
would you beat any man in the top 1,000 men, do you think? Under normal conditions?
For sure.
I think some of them maybe I would be able to win. Yeah. Like if there's the guy that doesn't have that powerful serve, for example, and yeah, I think I could get a couple wins, but not like I would win every.
And here's where it gets really juicy. Nick Kyrgios sitting right there during the interview because they're hyping their Battle of the Sexes match on December 28th. Didn't hold back either. I think she hit the nail on the head, he said. So now you've got a male player and a female player both agreeing, loud and clear, that biological differences actually matter in sports competition.
Phil, because I completely concur with what Aryna just said.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way, to be honest. Yeah, I've got nothing to add, but I think she hit the nail on the head.
The WTA currently has a policy letting transgender women compete if they've declared their gender as female for at least 4 years, lowered their testosterone, and agreed to testing procedures. These rules can even be tweaked by the WTA medical manager on a case-by-case basis. Sounds fair, right? Requirements, oversight, testing, all on paper, solid. But Sabalenka is basically saying that's not enough. She's arguing, like a growing number of athletes, that testosterone levels don't erase the advantages gained from male puberty. We're talking bone density, muscle mass, lung capacity, heart size, limb length ratios, all the physical perks that develop during male puberty and don't vanish just because testosterone drops. Right now, the WTA hasn't responded to Sabalenka's comments. Honestly, they're probably locked in some conference room panicking, because whatever they say, someone's going to be furious. Support Sabalenka, they're called transphobic. Criticize her, and they're accused of ignoring fairness for biological women. There's literally no winning here. Let's rewind and look at other sports, because this didn't start with Sabalenka, and it's far from over. In 2024, Britain's Lawn Tennis Association updated its rules to bar transgender women from national and inter-club female competitions. They studied the evidence, consulted experts, and made a decision. In the past 2 years, multiple sports federations launched studies or changed rules to ban anyone who's gone through male puberty from elite female competition. Swimming did it, track and field is doing it, cycling has done it, weightlifting has done it. These aren't random bigot decisions. They're federations that spent months, even years, analyzing science, talking to medical experts, and balancing inclusion with fairness. Increasingly, they're concluding that male puberty gives permanent advantages that testosterone suppression can't erase. The headline case everyone cites is Leah Thomas in swimming. Thomas competed as a male at the University of Pennsylvania for 3 years, ranking in the hundreds. After transitioning and competing as a female, Thomas won the NCAA Division I Women's 500-yard Freestyle Championship. The gap was huge, from hundreds in men's rankings to first in women's. That case became the poster child for this debate. Critics say it perfectly shows the issue. Someone went through male puberty, developed with male testosterone, built male skeletal and muscle structures, and then competed against women without those advantages. Meanwhile, transgender advocacy groups argue that excluding trans athletes is discrimination. Their stance, transgender women are women, period, and should compete in women's sports. They point out that not every transgender woman is physically dominant. Transition affects people differently. And they argue that blanket bans are unfair and even harmful. Look, that's a valid perspective. Nobody wants to shut someone out from something they love. Nobody wants to tell someone they can't chase their dreams. But here's the counterpoint, and this is exactly what Sabalenka is saying. Sports are one of the few places where we have to draw hard lines based on biology. Men's and women's sports exist precisely because biology matters. If those differences didn't matter, why have separate categories at all? Just let everyone compete together. But we don't do that because we all know what would happen. Male athletes would dominate nearly every professional sport. Serena Williams, arguably the greatest female tennis player ever, has said she'd probably rank around 700 if she played on the men's tour. And that's after facing Karsten Brosch, who was ranked around 300. She lost badly. That's not a knock on Serena, she's phenomenal. It's just biology. So when Sabalenka says it's unfair for women to face basically biological men, she's pointing out that hormone therapy doesn't erase those advantages. Science backs this up. Studies show that even after years of testosterone suppression, transgender women retain significant advantages in muscle mass, bone density, and cardiovascular capacity compared to biological women. Critics of inclusion in women's sports point to clear physical edges: more muscle mass even after transition, stronger bones, bigger hearts and lungs for endurance, different hip angles affecting running mechanics, and longer limbs giving leverage. These traits develop during male puberty and create permanent competitive advantages. Now here's where it gets ironic: the Battle of the Sexes exhibition. Sabalenka is set to face Nick Kyrgios in a match designed to highlight the physical differences between male and female athletes. These matches keep happening. Billie Jean King faced Bobby Riggs. Serena Williams faced Karsten Brosch. And the point is always the same. The original 1973 Battle of the Sexes saw Billie Jean King beat Bobby Riggs, and people love citing that as proof that women can compete with men. But Riggs was 55 and hadn't competed professionally in decades. It was more comedy than serious competition. When elite women face even mediocre male pros in their prime, the outcomes are lopsided. Kyrgios backing Sabalenka is huge because it shows this isn't just women feeling threatened. Male athletes recognize the gap too. They've played against women in practice and exhibitions. They know the physical difference is real. But here's the deeper layer. Sabalenka's words are causing massive waves, not just because of what she said, but who she is. The world #1. She's won 4 Grand Slam titles. She's at the peak of women's tennis. When someone like that speaks, it carries serious weight. This isn't some lower-tier player grinding it out on the minor circuits. This is the face of women's tennis, calling the current policies unfair. And Sabalenka isn't alone. Martina Navratilova, 18-time Grand Slam champion and LGBTQ icon, has been outspoken for years about keeping transgender women out of women's sports. She argues it's unfair, unsafe, and undermines everything women's sports have fought to achieve. The fact that Navratilova, someone who's been fighting for LGBTQ rights long before most people even knew what that meant, is taking this stance shows just how complicated this issue is. She's not some conservative commentator with an agenda. She's a trailblazer for gay rights who also believes biological sex matters in sports. On the flip side, Billie Jean King, another tennis legend and LGBTQ advocate, sees excluding transgender athletes as discrimination. So even within the same generation of tennis players who fought for women's and LGBTQ rights, there's massive disagreement on where the line should be drawn. The WTA is in an impossible spot right now. Their biggest star just publicly criticized their policy. They can't ignore it, but responding will spark huge controversy either way. Support Sabalenka and they face boycotts from LGBTQ advocacy groups, sponsor pullback, and accusations of transphobia. Criticize her or reaffirm policy, and they face backlash from those who agree women deserve fair competition. The silence from the WTA is deafening. No statements, no media responses. They're probably huddled with lawyers, PR experts, medical advisors, everyone they can think of, trying to navigate this minefield. Meanwhile, other sports are making their own moves. Swimming has banned transgender women who went through male puberty from elite women's events. World Athletics has done the same for track and field. Cycling is rolling out similar restrictions. The dominoes are falling. Tennis is especially interesting because it's an individual sport. In team sports, one player's advantage can be masked, but in tennis, it's one-on-one. Any significant physical edge shows instantly in serve speed, power, court coverage, and endurance. Sabalenka pointed out that women spend years pushing their bodies to the max. That's the core of her argument. They've optimized every ounce of female physiology through years of training. Facing someone with the benefits of male puberty creates an unfair playing field. Testosterone testing is meant to level things, but as Sabalenka and others argue, testosterone is only part of the equation. You can lower it today, but you can't erase 15 years of developing with male-level hormones. Those advantages are baked in. Here's the part nobody wants to say out loud, but everyone's thinking it. This is likely heading to court. Someone will sue over exclusion or inclusion, and judges will have to decide where sports organizations can draw the line. The International Olympic Committee is edging towards stricter rules, moving away from a hands-off approach, now considering sport-by-sport policies based on specific physical advantages. That's probably where this ends up, individual sports making science-backed decisions. What makes Sabalenka's timing brilliant is she spoke out while promoting a battle of the sexes match. That match concept literally acknowledges that men and women compete at different physical levels. Her comments on biological advantages align perfectly with what she's about to show on court. The irony is perfect. She's going to play Nick Kyrgios, who isn't even near the top of men's tennis, and he'll likely still beat her if he takes it seriously. That match will illustrate her point better than any interview ever could. So there you have it. Aryna Sabalenka spoke her mind. The WTA is panicking. Everyone is losing it over what happens next. This debate is far from over, and something tells me we're just getting started. If this breakdown helped you understand what's really happening, smash that like button and subscribe, because sports just got a whole lot more complicated.